Welcome to According to Sam, folks. This is episode 435. Happy Monday. Hope you guys had a good weekend. Thank you for joining me today. I have a really good podcast for you guys today. We're going to pick up where we left off in the last podcast. I had some stuff that, at least one clip that I didn't get to in the last podcast that we're going to get into, back into today. And then I have some other stuff that I want to share, but it's all pertaining to what we've been talking about and the theme that we've been talking about, the crises of the United States third century. That the United States is in our third century, and we have several crises that we're dealing with. The election crises, the education crises, that we've gone in depth into these crises in individual podcasts. If you guys want to go back and take a look at those. The debt crises, I told you that we would hit 40 trillion before the end of the month with time to spare, and I was correct. I predict now that we will be at 41 trillion. I would say right about around the end of the year, December, maybe a little bit before. We've been adding each one of these colors on this chart. And this only goes to the Biden administration. It didn't even, have the 2 years of, it stops in, 2024 here. Didn't even have the 2 years of, the second Trump administration. But if it did, these lines would be even thinner, because what this shows is each one of these colors and blocks represents $1 trillion. And between 1996 and 2002, it took 7 years for the United States to add $1 trillion. And then from 2002 to 2004, it took 3 years to add $1 trillion to the national debt. And then from 2004 to 2005, less than 3 years to add $1 trillion to the national debt. And now we're adding $1 trillion to the national debt every 90 to, it used to be 90 to 120 days. Now it's closer to every 90 days, $1 trillion being added to the national debt. So that's a crisis. We talked about that. It's a serious crisis. We have the treason crises. We talked about that. And then we've been talking about in the past few podcasts, just because I have a lot to say about this. You know, I was talking about black extremists in the last podcast, and, you might be asking, well, why don't you ever talk about white extremists or, other extremists? I talk about all extremists. In every community has, extremists, but for me, it's really important for me to point out and talk about extremism in the black community because I'm black. And the racial tribalism, like I was saying in the last podcast, that we're having here in the United States right now, experiencing in the United States, the uniform for your tribe is your skin color. And because I have the uniform on for these racial tribal blacks, I'm not saying that there aren't racially tribal whites. There are many racially tribal whites. And I think that it is for people that don't have extreme views, the same extreme views as racial tribal whites. If you're white, maybe it's important for you to speak out and say that I'm not part of, that tribal group just because I have that uniform on. That's why I talk about racial tribalism and highlight it from the perspective of black racial tribalism. But there's white racial tribalism. Everyone is tribal. If you don't get anything, from what I've been talking about in this series of podcasts, is that tribalism comes natural to us as human beings, as Homo sapiens. Tribalism. We've been tribal throughout our existence. That comes natural. But the feeding into this racial tribalism and encouraging it for the purpose of crisis number 6, the rise of Marxism, is what I want to highlight. And what I want to show is how Marxists are using the racial tribalism in this country and antagonizing it and prodding at this racial tribalism to create tensions, to create conflict for the rise of Marxism, which Marxism thrives on conflict, Marxist conflict theory. So we've been talking about all of that in the last podcast. We'll listen to the clip here again of G. Edward Griffin express what I just said. Take a listen.
As early as 1928, the communists declared that the racial differences among our people constituted the weakest and most vulnerable point in our social fabric. By constantly probing and straining at this one spot, they calculated that eventually the cloth could be torn apart and that Americans could be divided, weakened, and perhaps even set against each other in open combat. We mustn't kid ourselves into thinking that the communists have placed their agitators only into the black communities. They're working both sides of the street.
They're working both sides of the street. And I'm going to speak out about, I'll speak out about both sides. I don't care. You know, I'm here to tell the truth that we have more in common. It doesn't matter about our skin color, that we're all in danger. We're all in danger. It doesn't matter if they're able to bring in this communist, totalitarian state that they want to create. It's not going to matter if you're black. It's not going to matter if you're white, if you're part of the proletariat. You're going to be a white person part of the proletariat or a black person part of the proletariat. And by that point, it's going to be too late once you realize that they've used you and divided you to bring in this system that they want to bring in. And we've been talking about it. I've been telling you that all this stuff is about politics. And when I say it's about politics, I was thinking about this and I was like, I really need to clarify what I'm talking about when I say that this is all about politics. When I'm talking about things being about politics, politics is power. So another way to say it, when I'm saying that it's all about politics, it's all about power, people. Politics is power. Politics is how power is distributed. Politics is how power is obtained. Politics is a means to an end, and that end is power. So that's what this is about. This is about power. That's what Machiavelli is suggesting to the prince when he's writing this. You know, it's basically a roadmap for the prince to rule over his kingdom and how the prince manipulates his subjects and his allies and maneuvers like a fox is what Machiavelli said. I guarantee you this woman's read Machiavelli. I guarantee you she's read The Prince. She understands what it's about. It's not just about politics. When I say it's about politics, it's about power, people. And these people have no power right now. The Democratic Party has no power. And the Democratic Party wants power. And how they get power, it's very important that you understand how they get power is by the black vote. The black vote is extremely important to them. The black vote is like crack to the Democratic Party. That's what this is about. That's what the George Floyd was about in 2020. That's what Austin Metcalf and Carmelo Anthony story and all the racial tribalism that has been inflamed because of this story. And then also the Nolan Wells story. That's what this is about. I'm not saying that these cases have anything to do with politics and what actually happened if Nolan Wells was murdered or drowned. I mean, let the things play out. I'm talking about how these cases are being used, how the Nolan Wells story is being used for politics, for power, how the Carmelo Anthony story is being used for politics, for power, how George Floyd was used for politics, for power. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about that what actually happened being, something that had to do with, politics, if Nolan Wells drowned or not. That didn't have anything to do with politics, but I'm talking about the aftermath, how it's being used. That has with the civil rights groups coming in and Al Sharpton and Ben Crump and all. That's about politics. The NAACP, that's about politics. The Urban League, that's about politics. That's about politics, people. So there's this narrative that is going around now, and you may have heard it. It's everywhere. It just happens to be, starting to spread as we go into the fall and beyond Labor Day and start getting closer to the election. There's more and more people are talking about this epidemic of Black people all over the country being lynched. That's the story being spread now, that all over the country, Black people are being lynched and hunted. Is what one of them says, hunted. This girl did a video. It's about 14 minutes. We're not going to listen to all of it, but she did a video breaking down this nonsense that is starting to go viral about, the epidemic of Black people being lynched in the United States of America in 2026. Take a listen.
I don't know about you, but I keep seeing this narrative all over the internet that Black people are being lynched all over the United States of America. What? Since when is this happening? I don't know. But on the left, this is a strong story arc, I guess, about the United States. Now, the other day I was on TikTok and I came across this video posted by Miss Rachel. You guys know Miss Rachel. She's the kids content creator who also happens to dabble in leftist politics. She's done videos with Mom Donnie. She's now posting about listening to the Black community. Let's look at this video that she posted about Black people being hung from trees. It's got 2.5 million.
Now this has gone really viral. This has gone really, really viral. This narrative that Black people, that there's an epidemic of Black people being hung from trees right now as we, go, into the fall and closer to the election. This is what they're going with. Like I'm telling you. This is about power, people. This is what it's about.
2.5 million likes on it on TikTok.
Please listen to the Black community. Black people don't hang themselves from trees. There's been at least 7 Black people found hanging from trees. Please listen to the
At least 7 Black people found hanging from trees. This is what they say. And this is like millions of views and millions of creators. This is a little bit more.
It cuts off at this weird space where you think she's going to talk more about these 7 apparent Black people who have been found hanging from trees that she is insinuating were lynched. Let's make that clear. But she gives no details on it whatsoever. Now, I encourage you guys to look into these cases on your own, as you probably are going to hear more about them on the internet. But when you look into these 7 Black people found hanging from trees, there is zero, and I'll tell you again, zero evidence that these are racially motivated crimes, that these people were lynched in any way, shape, or form.
Zero. And the media, and if anything, would tell you that there's zero evidence that these are racially motivated lynchings, is that none of the mainstream media is reporting on it. But we'll get to that in just a minute. Let's listen to a little bit more of Amalia break this down, and she breaks this down, all of these different stories. But this has gone viral for a reason, people. This is not just because, again, the Black vote is like crack, and like Machiavelli tells the prince that fear is a very powerful motivator. That using fear is how you get people to go out and vote. And this is one of the tactics that has been used. This is all related to getting out the Black vote. And we're going to get into a moment, and I'm going to show you how important the Black vote is. I mean, I've been explaining it to you for weeks, but we're going to get into some more stuff here in a moment.
In a few of these cases, they actually have footage that displays the person entering an area. They actually have footage.
The chief of police here in Riley. Oh, yeah, the chief of police in Riley is covering up the Black lynchings.
For no reason whatsoever. In a few of these cases, they actually have footage that displays the person entering an area alone and in fact committing the act of suicide. Yet the left is hopping on the internet and saying that these individuals were lynched. Now, Miss Rachel is not the only one. However, she is the most influential one so far that I've seen.
She's not the most influential. I mean, she says so far since she's seen, but I played 2 podcasts ago of this moron spreading this story, the politics girl.
Stop. Black Americans are being hunted and murdered in Mississippi.
She uses the word
I'm going to
hunted.
say that again because it's horrifying. And the mainstream media is too busy allowing the Trump administration
And I love that part. I love this part because I just said that, you know, this is happening, that black people are being hunted and hung from trees is what she says. But the mainstream media is not reporting on it because they're too busy allowing Trump to get away with stuff is what she says. Listen to this. This is insane.
Black Americans are being hunted and murdered in Mississippi. I'm going to say that again because it's horrifying. And the mainstream media is too busy allowing the Trump administration to dominate the news cycle, lying about the economy, downplaying the war, ignoring the health outbreaks and the upcoming healthcare cuts to take even a moment to talk about the black people being targeted for death in the state of Mississippi.
Wow. I mean, it's just completely insane. The media is too busy to report on all of these lynchings that have been taking place. Listen to more of this.
Share this narrative. I'll show you another TikTok. This one has 1.4 million likes on it.
Completely deranged. This woman is completely deranged. And she says 1.4 million likes on this TikTok. TikTok is just like, it's a cesspool over there. But listen to this deranged individual.
TikTok. This one has 1.4 million likes on it.
Black people are being lynched all around the country right now.
So all around the country, at least this moron politics girl says that it's only happening in Mississippi. This idiot with 1.4 million likes on TikTok says it's happening all around the country, that black people are being lynched, targeted and lynched is what's going on here. Huh?
I'll show you another TikTok. This one has 1.4 million likes on it.
Black people are being lynched all around the country right now. They are being found hanging from trees in public spaces.
All over the country.
All around the country right now.
All over the country.
Okay, so let's jump from Miss Rachel's 7. Okay, she's at 7. And let's go ahead and assume that all 7 of those are racial lynchings, when in fact 0 of them have been deemed to be racial lynchings. This video says it's happening all over the country.
All over the country. I wish I could show you more. I wish I had more of this girl's video prepped because it's insane. But here's D.L. Hughley. D.L. Hughley this morning on his show. Take a listen.
Who the fuck is hanging these kids? Who's hanging these kids?
Who's hanging these kids?
And one thing's for sure, black people are damn sure not hanging themselves.
Correct.
They're not going up in trees hanging themselves. And you know what? The silence of communities, the silence of governance, the silence of cities and municipalities is deafening.
The silence is deafening. Yeah, the silence is deafening. That should tell you something, idiot. There's no evidence of any racial components in any of these cases. And you're just spreading these lies. They're all spreading it. Because this is about power. This is about politics, which is about power, people. And I was thinking to myself, when's the last time I've heard of a lynching going on in the United States, and them making, someone making a claim that they had been lynched, and I was like, oh, 2019. I remember 2000. It happened to be Trump was in office, getting ready to go into his re-election year, and I remember that there was a claim of lynching, and I remember all these talking heads in the media, like D.L. Hughley, like entertainers like D.L. Hughley, like what's his name here, Steve Harvey here, and many others, coming out claiming that all of this hatred was going on in the Trump administration, and that this actor was lynched in Chicago, and they poured bleach on him. This is what I remember. Take a listen.
This is about coming to the aid of another brother that has tasted the brutality of hatred, racism, and bigotry.
In this situation, hate won't win. It will not.
You didn't deserve, nor anybody deserves, to have a noose put around your neck.
He put the noose around his own neck, you idiots. He put the noose around his own neck. And I was just thinking to myself, this is the same tactic that they used back in 2019. Yes, it's just one individual who claimed that in Chicago that two guys in red hats that came up to him and said, what did they say? He said, MAGA, this is MAGA country in Chicago, Illinois. And they poured bleach on him and put a noose around his neck. It's the same thing that's going on with D.L. Hughley. Who's lynching these kids during the Trump administration? Blacks are just getting lynched everywhere. They're hunting black people in Mississippi is what this idiot politics girl says. Yeah, it reminds me of this. It reminds me back in 2019 when you guys all, ate up the race hoax.
Of another brother that has tasted the brutality of hatred, racism, and bigotry.
In this situation, hate won't win. It will not.
You didn't deserve, nor anybody deserves, to have a noose put around your neck.
He had bleach poured onto him.
He poured it on himself.
Needs to stop.
He will forgive these people for what they did. But he won't. And we cannot
these people are
forget
clowns.
Their actions.
And hopefully this just opens up people's eyes. It's just what needs to stop, man.
Open up people's eyes.
Damn, why are we going backwards?
Yeah.
There are a lot of evidence of violent incidents that happen at these MAGA rallies.
This is essentially terrorism, and you wonder how deep it goes. These hateful groups that get together.
These people, I swear.
Hopefully, it's just two people.
None of these people came out and apologized after egg was all over their face, and after it came out that this was a race hoax. That nobody put a noose around Jussie Smollett's neck. He put the noose around his own neck and said that someone was lynching him and saying that this is MAGA country in Chicago, Illinois, and poured bleach on him. That's the same thing that's happening right now. That's the same thing. So this story, this Carmelo Anthony story that we talked about in the last podcast, Metcalf story, it did conclude over the weekend. I told you today was the day where they had to decide if they were going to allow a new trial. And the judge came out on Saturday, actually, and denied the motion that there will not be a new trial. His attorneys say, it's not over, that they wanted to get all this stuff on the record in this case, and they're going to, try to get an actual appeal because this, hearings that they had over the last week was for a new trial, which isn't a appeal. So now they're going to go for an appeal or a reduced sentence is what they say. But everyone, the anger over this, particularly in the black community over this case, has really been fueled by the information that came out about Austin Metcalf's past. It seems like a lot of them are overlooking the background and character evidence that they had on Carmelo Anthony. Again, the character evidence on both of these boys is just awful. But as I was saying in the last podcast, again, that the major issue of contention with the black community is so much time. Even though 99 years was the maximum time that he could have gotten, he got 35 years, but the maximum time was 99 years that he could have gotten. But still that 35 years under the circumstances, that's what really doesn't sit well with people. And as I was explaining in the last podcast, that Carmelo got horrible legal representation. His legal defense was horrible. Now, yes, what the attorney had to deal with with Carmelo Anthony's character evidence that they had against him, the text messages, and stuff like that were completely explosive. And I can understand that any attorney having to deal faced with that evidence against their client, who knows? I believe that, that not putting your client on the stand, regardless of that evidence, maybe fighting to keep some of that stuff out that was more more prejudicial. Some of that stuff that was more prejudicial, try to keep that stuff out and fight, for each piece of evidence, motion by motion, and just, let your client explain away some of this stuff that, yes, this was just tongue in cheek. Yes, this was happening during playing video games, give some context to each one of those. I mean, I would have thought, that would be a lot better than just saying, no, I'm not going to testify at all in a self-defense case. Anyway, I believe he got horrible legal representation. I believe that his lawyer did not give him good legal advice. But as I've explained in the last podcast, you get what you pay for. That we listened to the clip of Dominique Alexander saying that the family, cheaped out on the lawyer, that they had talked to black defense attorneys first, who they believe would have had his best interest, because again, this tribalism mindset is that the black attorney is wearing our uniform. He's in our tribe, that he's got my best interest in mind. But the black attorney said that he wanted $500,000. So the family went with the white attorney that only wanted $75,000. And so you get what you pay for. Yes, Carmelo Anthony got horrible legal representation, but his family went the cheap route with the attorney. And then again, I was asking that question too. If the mindset of this tribal mindset and being on code is the mindset, why did the black attorney not take the case pro bono? It's interesting because these appellate lawyers are working pro bono now. What's his name? He's got Russell Wilson, football court. He's got the quarterback's name, Russell Wilson, who is the leading the defense team now. He's doing it pro bono. All these other lawyers are doing it pro bono. But why are they doing it pro bono now? Is because it's a high profile case. If they're successful in winning an appeal, that's going to, add to their notoriety and the, potential future cases that they're going to be able to get because of winning this case, that it's in high profile. It's advantageous to them. Of course, that's why they're doing it pro bono. But, why didn't they volunteer their legal services pro bono before, since they were and be on code? We're all black, be on there. No, the real world is not like that. That's why this tribalism stuff is stupid. I was thinking about the movie Menace to Society. Remember the movie Menace to Society in the 80s? And I forget, it wasn't O-Dog. It was the other guy, and he's carjacking this black guy in the driveway of I think it's a restaurant. He's in the drive-thru and he's carjacking him, and the guy says, "Aren't we all supposed to be brothers? Aren't we all supposed to be part of the same tribe? No. Get out. I'm jacking you. We're not part of the same tribe. These YNs don't care nothing about you wearing the same uniform and being part of the same tribe. That's the real world. There's a defense attorney, a black lawyer is not going to, give you legal services and throw away, hours of legal billing just because you happen to wear his uniform and be on the same team. That's crazy. But let's listen to, we finished last week's podcast listening to Dominique Alexander tell this story about how Carmelo Anthony's family cheaped out on his legal defense, and he got very bad legal representation, quite frankly.
And so I told the family, this is Sunday. They got a bond hearing Tuesday. Mm-hmm. Whoever you want to meet with, you got to find an attorney today, because if you don't want to reschedule this bond hearing, you got to. So I had him meet with another attorney, a black attorney. The first attorney I had to meet was black. Rain asked me what the price that black attorney was.
Charge
$500,000.
$500,000.
They weren't talking until they gave him $200,000.
What the white man say?
75.
75,000?
Yeah. And so my thing was, is like, you got this reaction to this case and you act like, say, man, if it was all these nigga attorneys that wanted to go out there and help that baby, it wouldn't have been no public seating. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We didn't have that. He said we didn't have all these nigga attorneys that wanted to help that baby. No, the black attorney who wears the same uniform as you, who's in your tribe, wanted $500,000. And honestly, if they're a good attorney, I mean, honestly, if it's my kid's life is on the line and I want to fight for my kid, I've raised $700,000 on GoFundMe, whatever it costs, to get the best attorney. And I don't care if that attorney, the best defense attorney in the state of Texas, who's gonna give my son the proper legal representation and the best legal representation. I don't care if that is a Hispanic lawyer or a black lawyer or a white lawyer. I don't care. I want the best. I want the best legal defense for my son. And again, Carmelo Anthony got horrible legal advice. Carmelo Anthony could have gotten much less time than 35 years. But his family, and this is what people in the black community are not being honest about. His family made horrible mistakes on his behalf. One, cheaping out on the attorney. Second was aligning themselves with this guy because this guy made a major mistake in the beginning after this incident had happened. When the family first, aligned themselves with Dominique Alexander, active minister, aiding and teen killer. Carmelo Anthony has his own lengthy rap sheet. Dominique Alexander is who the family decided to associate themselves with. And this guy and that decision by the family added years to Carmelo Anthony's time. Why isn't the black community upset about this? Why isn't the black community upset about the fact that Carmelo Anthony's family cheaped out on his legal defense? Why isn't the black community angry with the black lawyers that wanted $500,000 and didn't do the case pro bono on code? This video went viral. I don't know about viral. A lot of people have seen lead attorney break down the mistake that Carmelo Anthony and Dominique Alexander, a dire mistake that costs, he's going to explain it here in a moment, that a dire mistake that cost Carmelo Anthony many more years of his sentence. If Carmelo Anthony would have expressed remorse from the beginning, and even pleaded guilty and thrown himself on the mercy of the court, he could have gotten, 5, 10 years, maybe. Who knows? It's impossible to say. Maybe done a plea deal or something. But yeah, he got 35 years. He didn't take the stand. There's no wonder he didn't get 35 years. But I want lead attorney. This is an attorney out of Atlanta. He does a YouTube page breaking down legal cases, but he broke down the Carmelo Anthony case. This is over a year ago. Let's look at the date of this. This had to be 2025 year. So July 2025. So this was last summer. And he breaks down this case, and he, as an attorney, he demonstrates the mistakes that Carmelo Anthony's family made in the beginning that cost their son more time. And he predicts it a year in advance before Carmelo Anthony gets 35 years. He predicted that he would get a lengthy amount of time because of this mistake. Take a listen.
Many of you were surprised at a point that I made in my last video on how Carmelo Anthony's family has actually costed Carmelo extra years in prison. So many extra years.
So many extra years. He got so many extra years because of this mistake that they made. Not only did they cheap out on his legal defense. Listen.
Carmelo extra years in prison. So many extra years. You wanted me to expound on that further because you had not heard anyone make that point. Well, that's why I'm here. I'm giving you the perspective, not of a YouTuber reacting to news, but of an attorney who's practiced for more than 20 years. This is behind the scenes info, so let's get to it. Now, let me explain on how Carmelo's mother basically sentenced her own son Carmelo to an extra 10 to 30 more years in prison. And
10 to 30 more years. He predicted this. He said this, lead attorney said this a year before Carmelo Anthony is sentenced to 35 years.
Son Carmelo to an extra 10 to 30 more years in prison and what she can do about it now to try to fix it. I explained in my last video that Carmelo's mother apparently hired a family spokesperson, one Dominique Alexander. This Dominique calls himself a minister of justice, whatever that is. Dominique is a convicted felon. He's alleged to have beaten his girlfriend. Then he got a new girlfriend, and when that girlfriend left out of the apartment, the good minister grabbed that woman's 2-year-old baby and shook him until that baby got brain damage. The good minister pled guilty in that case to felony charges and was in prison. Now, this is the man that Carmelo's mom chose to speak on Carmelo and the family's behalf.
He's still speaking for them today. He spoke for them and did an interview after the hearing last Wednesday, still speaking for them today.
The good baby shaking minister. The minister did exactly what you would expect a convicted felon to do when handling Carmelo's case. He absolutely destroyed it. How? He ostracized the most important person in Carmelo's case. Now, who is that? Is that the judge? No. Is that the prosecutor? No. The most important person alive in Carmelo's case is actually Jeff Metcalf, the father of the young man that Carmelo Anthony killed, Austin Metcalf. The father, Jeff Metcalf, is the linchpin to Carmelo's entire future. Let me tell you that in a murder case where the victim is gone, the case lives on through the victim's next of kin. When a parent has to bury his child, everyone looks to that parent to gauge how to react. Judges consciously and subconsciously look at the parent's facial expression when they're testifying on the witness stand. Prosecutors run all their plea offers through the parents. Reporters knock on the parents' doors for statements, and they aim their cameras at the parents when the verdicts drop. And the jurors, oh my goodness. The jurors hang on every word of the parents, notice every little movement, every gesture. In this case, Jeff Metcalf, the father, is not just a spectator in the case, he's the conscience of the entire community. If you win Jeff, you win all the sympathy. But if you alienate him, you can go to prison for life. Now, months ago, Jeff Metcalf, the father, he did something unthinkable. Reporters, as they always do, shoved a microphone in this grieving father's face and asked him, "How do you feel about this Carmelo Anthony?" Do you know what he said? Jeff Metcalf said, and I quote, "You know what? I've already forgiven this person."
Absolutely.
Already. Now, that is amazing. It's amazing that Jeff would have the strength to do that because I would be incapable of that. The maturity, the wisdom, the strength, I just would not have it. Now, that baby shaking minister is not going to know this, but when a father makes a statement like that, a statement of forgiveness, the entire Carmelo team has to drop everything.
And
this is a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Seize up on that.
Your entire legal legal strategy has to change. I can tell you as an attorney that you call an emergency meeting with all the lawyers, all the family, maybe PR consultants if the family has means for that. You bring everyone together to get them on the same page and let them know that this case will revolve around one person, Jeff Metcalf, the father. So when Carmelo's mother heard what Jeff said about her son, what do you think that this lady did? She handed the microphone at a press conference to the baby shaking minister of justice. And at that press conference where Jeff Metcalf showed up to pray with the family, the baby shaking minister called the police and had Jeff kicked out. Like, can you believe
This
it?
was detrimental. This was completely detrimental. This is why Carmelo Anthony is going to be serving 35 years. He's lucky if he can get off with less time. But they could have given him 99 years. But all the people hung up on the amount of time that he got and how much of his youth he's going to be behind bars needs to understand what the lead attorney is saying here. They made decisions that were detrimental to Carmelo Anthony's case. Many of them, one of them being that they cheaped out on the lawyer, went with the $75,000 lawyer who was cheaper, but also alienating Austin Metcalf when this guy shows up to their press conference to make peace. He had already said that I've already forgiven Carmelo Anthony. He shows up there. He wanted to make peace. He wanted to pray with the family, he said. And then the baby shaking minister, Dominique Alexander, kicked him out and basically embarrassed him in this whole situation.
Showed up to pray with the family. The baby shaking minister called the police and had Jeff kicked out.
Now, and when you take all of this into consideration, this plus the fact that he didn't testify, come on, people, 35 years is not they could have given him 99. But when you take all this into consideration, and how they alienated the family, didn't show any remorse, didn't get up on the stand and say that he was afraid for his life, didn't say, how he was remorseful at all, ever. They're lucky he only got 35 years, people.
The baby shaking minister called the police and had Jeff kicked out. Like, can you believe it? They kicked Jeff Metcalf, who came there to pray. They kicked him out of the press conference. The entire spectacle went viral within an hour.
They
Do you know what
embarrassed him.
else? Carmelo Anthony's prison sentence was prolonged by 10 to 25 years within that same hour. Now, why do I say that? What did the family show Jeff in that instance? Jeff the father.
No remorse.
They showed Jeff that there was no remorse. They showed Jeff that there would be no mutual prayers. There would be no reconciliation. Showed that man nothing but hostility and aggression. The same hostility, the same aggression maybe that was at that track meet that fateful afternoon, that was under that tent. Some of you are not going to appreciate how important this father is. You just don't know how these criminal sentences work. I see your comments on YouTube and Twitter. You think, oh, this person killed that person, so put the killer in prison and throw away the key. Put him there for life. That's what you guys say. You have no idea. I will tell you.
And that's the thing. So he said this a year ago. That this video that this attorney that you're listening to right now, he put out a year before Carmelo Anthony was sentenced. It's interesting because all these people start bringing up other cases. I guess there's this other case, this woman who got 5 years for killing her boyfriend. A lot of people were bringing up what's his name? Kyle Rittenhouse. Oh, Kyle Rittenhouse, Kyle Rittenhouse took the stand. Kyle Rittenhouse explained, that look, I was in fear for my life, that these guys were getting ready to kill me, I mean, completely different situations, but that's what he's trying to explain here is that you guys don't understand how the sentencing, works. I'm going to let him go more into this.
for life. That's what you guys say. You have no idea. I will tell you that people kill people all the time, and the sentences range from insanity on the low end to insanity on the high end. Now, who controls where the sentence is going to fall? At the end of the day, it is the sentiment of the community that will decide. And in this case, Jeff Metcalf is at the center of that entire community. Now, let's do this. Let's suppose it is your first day of law school.
We're not going to listen to you got enough of this. I mean, this video, you should check it out. Like I said, he did this a year before Carmelo Anthony was sentenced, and he predicted that he would be sentenced and time would be added to his sentence by the actions of Dominique Alexander in alienating Austin Metcalf and showing no remorse. But to the point of how important the black vote is to the Democratic Party and Democrats, and why they will, inflame black tensions and play on black emotions and, create stories of black people being hunted and lynched and all that stuff to bring out this fear and emotion, to bring people to the polls, because this is about politics, and politics is about power. To further emphasize that, James Tallarico, who is running for the Senate in Texas, he and his political team have done the calculation, and his victory in Texas hinges on the black vote. He knows that. Everybody knows that. Right now, he's trying to get Jasmine Crockett to come campaign with him because he thinks for some reason Jasmine Crockett has influence with black Texans, that, and that Jasmine Crockett's going to help him get out the black vote in Texas, even though she couldn't even get out the black vote for herself. But this is his calculus. This is his strategy and his political strategy, that he knows he needs the black vote. It's funny because I read the article that I wrote in 2023 talking about how important the black vote is in presidential elections because of the Electoral College and the Great Migration, and how, large populations of black people live in the industrial Midwest, and I was explaining that from a presidential election perspective and the Electoral College. Again, and I want to say this too, because I did the podcast, a couple of podcasts ago about, them wanting to get rid of the Electoral College and the Senate and the bicameral legislature because they want to go to direct democracy. If you're black and you support the getting rid of the Electoral College, then you support diminishing your power, because you're 12% of the total population. If you go to the popular vote, then they don't care what you think anymore. The only reason that they care what you think and that your vote is important in presidential elections is because of the Electoral College. You get rid of the Electoral College, then they don't care what you think anymore. So if you support, and you're black and you support getting rid of the Electoral College, you're foolish because you support diminishing your power. But also in the Senate, the black vote is very important in particular states, like in Texas. Tallarico's done the calculus. He knows that him winning in Texas, it hinges on him getting out a lot of the black vote. Same thing in Michigan with El Said, Abdul El Said. For Abdul El Said to win in Michigan, he has to get a large percentage of the black vote, no matter whatever else happens. It's very important for him to win his Senate race. And both of these guys know that. Tallarico was asked about this Carmelo Anthony case. He's in New York at the Breakfast Club with what's his name? Leonard. And it's funny because he's there in New York with Leonard and the Breakfast Club, and he's trying to appeal to the black extremists, when black people in New York and black people in Texas are very different. Like I'm saying, that he's trying to appeal to these extreme views in the black community. And as he's trying to appeal to these extreme views in the black community, this is what's happening to the Democratic Party. They're losing, incrementally. And I don't even know if it's incrementally anymore. They're losing more and more normal, sane, decent black people as they try to appeal to the extremists. So he's in New York there on Leonard's show, and he's expressing his views on the Carmelo Anthony case because he knows he's done the calculus, he's done the math. He knows he needs the black vote in Texas, and he's asked about the Carmelo Anthony case while he's in New York on the Breakfast Club, and this is what he says: completely
Texas,
extreme.
You see what happened with Carmelo Anthony, and you said it was a tragedy.
Yeah.
What did you mean by that?
Well, I've done a lot of work in the State House on justice reform, and right now we've got a system that doesn't serve all Americans equally, and we know that black Texans have not gotten the justice they deserve in many cases. And I'm not an expert on this particular case, but I know that there were no black members of the jury. And to me, that's the only evidence you need to really prove that this system is not working.
So that's the only evidence you need to really prove this system is not working. And this case was fraudulent, and Carmelo Anthony got a raw deal is because there were no black people on the jury, is what he's saying, which is this is an extreme view. And he's trying to appeal to extremists in the black community because he needs that black vote. It's like crack. You got to have that black vote. That black vote is like crack. He needs it. You got to have it. And if he don't get the black vote, then he ain't going to win. And he ain't going to win because he ain't going to get the black vote. But again, the same thing with El Said in Detroit. He's struggling with black voters. He needs to turn out as many black votes as he can in Detroit, in Flint area. And he's struggling. When he ran in the primary, a lot of black voters didn't support him. So now he's coming out with the hot sauce because he knows he needs the black vote. And he's saying things like this. It's nothing but hot sauce.
You got to read Dr. Martin Luther King. You got to read the stuff that he actually wrote.
Yeah.
Malcolm X.
Yeah.
I learned what it meant to be a person of color reading black folk and the civil rights struggle. And I understand that my responsibility is about trying to address racial inequity. You got to read.
I mean, he's making a fool out of himself. This ain't nothing but hot sauce in the purse. That's what that is. That's hot sauce in the purse. He was, asked about the trouble that he's having with black voters in Michigan. And he said this is in an interview last week. Take a listen.
Why don't you just make it just happen there? The guy saying you're an Arab, you don't care about black folks. I hate to say this, but I continue to hear it from older black folks, people like some of Denzel's colleagues tell me that they're uncommitted for you.
There's been an effort, I think, to divide people against each other. And unfortunately, you see that the consequence of that, to tell us that some group or another group have to be counterposed because there's not enough for all of us. I am Arab. I'm also African. My family immigrated to this country from Egypt.
So he says that he's asked, what about, the trouble you're having with black voters? He says, that people are trying to divide us, that I'm not only Arab, that I'm also Egyptian. My family immigrated here from Egypt. And the irony of this is that all this guy talks about is colonization and how the colonizers, taking land, this is what he said about football. This statement of his, he's trying to appeal to black voters. More black people have been lifted out of poverty in this country because of football than any other institution. But he's trying to appeal to black voters, and he says this. Take a listen.
You think about all the wars that we fight abroad, all of the sordid history of oppressing other people in the name of this American idea, right? Whether it was, quote, manifest destiny and destroying Native Americans, or it was the transatlantic slave trade where, folks who, quote, founded this country on the backs of Native folks that they destroyed, then captured people, enslaved them, and had them work their fields.
So manifest destiny, enslaving people on the land that you destroyed, but yet he's saying that, I'm not only Arab, I'm Egyptian. Well, how the hell did the Arabs get to Egypt? Was it manifest destiny? Dar el Harb? What is the Dar al Harb is the House of War, or Dar al Islam? Is that manifest destiny? How did the Arabs get into Egypt, El Said? Was there any slavery in Egypt when the Arabs came and colonized But that's all this guy talks about is colonization. This is his sister. His sister put out this post. This is Al Saeed's sister. She put this post out on the 4th of July, 2016. Excuse me if I don't celebrate the transfer of stolen land from one colonizer to the other. What'd you Arabs do in Egypt? Did you colonize Egypt? Did you colonize all of North Africa? Did you enslave people? The Arabs in Egypt? And that's the problem with this Red-Green Alliance, is that you hear, all of these Muslims starting to adopt all this communist talk and forgetting the fact that, hey, you guys colonized a lot of land too. You guys enslaved a lot of people too. Anyway, yes, the black vote is very important. It's very important, and it's about power, people. And you will be surprised at the lengths people will go to for power. Hope you guys have a great week, and I'll see you on Friday.